What's up, folks? Casual Dad here, and this is right now I'm recording this the night before I'm going to release it. So this is the final night of week 3 of the current ladder season in Warhammer Combat Cards, in which we are trying to get to the top 6% so that we can get the seasonal reward card of Skarbrand. Oh, man. Okay, so let's take a look at this ladder real quick. Oh, and we're right there, and we've officially dropped down to the top 10%, so we're laddering aggressively. Now, I fully expect that to change, right? So my trophy count is fairly high. Most players actually get to Terra in week 4 and then kind of sit there. So they get to low Terra and just hang out because it's very difficult to climb up the ladder aggressively past that point. But just to be sure, I want to make sure that I end week 4, or hopefully end week 3, in the top 6%. And right now I'm sitting at player number 96, which has steadily dropped down from 13 in week 1. Yeah, and so I've been watching that number for the past couple weeks, and so we are full on leapfrogging here. So I have built up a full 5 factions up to roughly the same trophy level so that I can leapfrog without the danger of losing any trophies, right? So I've got my 4 highest ranked, and I'll play my 2 5th and 6th ranked until they take the spot of one of the upper ones, and then always play the one that is not in the top 4. So I'm climbing up and leapfrogging through without any risk of loss, right? And so this today is probably going to be the last video I do in any length on this subject, because we're going to have the end of season updates next week. So there's going to be a lot more going on, and I'll do an update on whether or not I got Skarbrand. We'll see. But I wanted to really do this justice, right? So you're going to actually see the decks that I'm playing. I'm going to actually play some of them, which I haven't done in the last few videos. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the design that went into those, why I believe these decks are working, and a little bit of the strategy I would follow to build decks with a different warlord or a different collection. So just to make sure I'm talking about that as we go. So looking at this, Eldari is the untouchable, almost 3.6 thousand trophies. If these guys leapfrog up to that, I'll be very, very impressed. And we're not that far away, but every inch of trophies is quite the climb at this level. So we're going to start with Servants of the Emperor. I'm going to play my actual Morven Vahl deck, and we'll talk about these each. I'm not going to focus too much on the deck itself in this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in and start playing. Yo, no, that is the wrong deck. That was a very unfortunate start to this. Okay, we'll see how this goes. So as we play this one, instead of talking about why this works, I'm going to talk about why this one doesn't work, because this is the wrong deck. I may still pull this out, but I'm going to talk about the things that I would not do. Now, first off, we got a lucky pull. This is not Trazen, so it's a Necron Warlord that's not Trazen. Running shields against Barrage, great. And this still is not awful. It's not good. So, and the thing is, I'm running full shields against in a Vahl deck. So Vahl's trait, this is non-Supreme Commander Vahl, right? So, and this is Morven Vahl, the Warlord. Her trait gives 3 shields that absorb up to 30% of incoming damage. They will absorb the first 30% of incoming damage, which is why it's bad with shields, because the shield, the 30% damage reduction has 3 charges that disappear just like shields do and do at the same time. So the shield doesn't protect the damage buff and vice versa. So why this is unfortunate is that you get diminishing returns from your shields. The only advantage to having shields in non-Supreme Commander Vahl decks is that the Vahl damage reduction makes sure that a weak card with shields can absorb the full shield value, so it isn't killed through the shields, which is something that can happen for your kind of squishier cards. So there is some benefit there, but not usually enough to justify bringing the shields. And we're going to see that here. So this does 137 damage. Ooh, God. And of course it moved. Great. And then I guess we're dropping Vahl herself at this point. Yikes. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty crushing loss. And I should have been readying more here. But yeah, so that's the singular reason why this doesn't work, is this is a Sisters themed deck that uses all shields, and the shields are redundant with Vahl's trait and don't actually benefit anything, because Vahl's trait is so similar to shields. Now we'll see what he does. He's going to go ahead and shoot, and my damage reduction really helped there. We'll see if I have enough to actually kill some of these guys. I don't. I don't have enough to kill any of them in ranged or lethal, but we kind of got to do it because I got to get through this. So we'll take this loss and then we'll go at it. Maybe. And then you're seeing right away that this is a 2.9 trophy deck versus my 3.3 trophy deck, or 2.9 thousand. versus 3.4 thousand-ish. So if I lose this, which I'm probably about to, it's going to give me a significant loss in trophies. Damn, that was max level? Wow, okay. Yeah, so here's one of the big risks of playing this time of the season. So we'll do a recap of the seasons, or of the weeks of the season, rather. So week 1, everyone's leveled out. Very few players are playing aggressively, so your chances of getting a favorable matchup, that is one where you are, where it's an easy game, right? So your chances of getting an easy game are much, much higher. Week 2, it gets a little bit tougher, where the people who are laddering aggressively, if you have laddered enough to get into Terra in week 2, then almost all of your matches are going to be against players who are really strong and laddered up to Terra in week 1. So it can get very scary very quickly. But the games that you have that are not against those people may also be against higher ranked, this is the correct one, against higher ranked players who haven't built up their trophies yet, right? So you could hit a 4K deck that's on its way up from 1.5K. So it's one that has a low trophy rating, but it's actually a high trophy power, so that it does actually really beat you up. So this is the correct deck, and this is a slightly better matchup in terms of trophy level. So if I lose to this one, it won't hurt as bad, but I've already up on a pretty gnarly deficit here. So just to kind of talk about the deck a little bit. So, and let me go ahead and talk about this. I don't want to take a max level hit from Gabriel Seth. So this is barely a 3K deck. It's a Helbrecht deck, so it's a really, really gnarly melee deck. And you're seeing a max level card in here. Actually, it looks like these are all max level cards. So this is a deck that could comfortably be higher than 3,000 trophies, but for whatever reason, this player has chosen not to go higher than that, and so they've stopped at this level. And you can really see the challenge of playing at this point, to ladder aggressively, because there are a lot of really powerful decks out there from players that don't really bother to ladder all the way to the top of the ladder. So they're incredibly powerful and will really punish you in your trophy count if you lose to them, but also are very challenging to beat. Like this one, I will be lucky to beat this one, but I think I should be okay. Taking down that Gabriel Seth was really important. And a couple things about this deck. Again, it is non-Supreme Commander Morven Vahl. So she has... Go ahead and do this. I really need to kill that guy. So we've got that defensive buff that I've already been talking about. I'll save that one. So that's keeping my cards alive a little bit more. This guy having fear and that defensive buff, taunt cards and that defensive buff, regen and that defensive buff. Those all stack to make your cards incredibly sticky. So it's a very durability themed deck, which usually gives you a massive downside because Titus, okay. Yeah, we're not attacking into that. And that is why we saved the taunt. So Helbrecht himself is coming out. Let me go ahead and pull this move. Okay. So it's his turn too. Yuck. All right, that was a mistake. Maybe. We'll actually see. And I'm freezing up again. We'll see if that goes through. Yeah, so we'll kind of see this and see if this is going to be a loss, because the end game is absolutely crucial in these, and it's a real bummer that we've got that death blow on the table. Now, I'm almost certainly not going to kill that death blow. Okay, cool. I'm almost certainly not going to kill that death blow, so hopefully I don't take the 300 damage he takes in that death blow. So I'm just going to have to not die to him and kill Helbrecht while we wait, which I should be able to do with the cards I still have left. So just to talk about my end turn strategy here. So I'm moving my Psyker over to the left because she has potential to actually kill this guy. And then I've got my taunt over here because this Titus is just so beefy, is already poisoned, is so beefy I'm not probably going to kill him. But the combination of Vahl's damage reduction plus taunt stacks, so you get such a massive damage reduction on that. Yeah, so between the actual damage and then the poison, he will die. We'll pull Helbrecht himself, take no damage in the outset, and then really hope that we have enough of a hit charged up to kill that guy. Do we have it? Moment of truth. No. Shit. Pardon my French. Okay. And I pretty much guaranteed to lose this one. Okay. Yeah, and this is why it gets so hard to climb at this level, and why I'm doing the leapfrog mechanic instead of playing my top tier decks and just banging against them, because your chances of hitting a lower trophy, higher power deck are so high at this point, especially being as high trophy count as I am. I laddered really aggressively early in the season where I had favorable matches. Now I don't. Now I have unfavorable matches where they really are higher level, very scary, very fine-tuned decks. But so what I have to do is I keep playing to this so that this will then get high enough to replace one of my other trophy factions. And now I do have a couple other warlords in here. I did play a little bit. I believe I mentioned earlier that I did do a Creed deck. The reason I'm going with Vahl is because the utility of poison is absolutely massive. Games don't tend to be all that long, but when they when they are longer, you really want to make sure that you are doing. You really want to make sure that you're actually taking down the opposing cards, like punching through fear, punching through really high hit points, punching through kind of defensive abilities, punching through taunt. So being able to hit cards with poison gives you this huge edge where even if you are losing cards really aggressively, then what you have alive is still able to finish out the fight. And so if you end up at the later turns of the end game, they have a bodyguard, like say they're slightly more powerful than you, they have a bodyguard left in one of the wings, your left or right flank, and you don't have something blocking that. But if you hit it early enough in the game to poison it, will he kill her? No. Okay. So that it will actually die, even though you left the flank uncovered. I killed that, though. That's a bummer. That's okay. Do this. That is a massive, massive advantage. To have that flank cleared for you, even though you were not able to actually do it directly. It's such a switch in power level where you don't actually have to beat that deck toe-to-toe. You don't have to actually beat it outright. All you have to do is land a lucky poison shot at some point early enough in the game that card has lost enough hit points that you actually get through it in the end game. Hugely powerful. So poison is an incredibly powerful tool in the upper levels, especially here where I'm up against a Rakarth deck where there's such incredible volumes of hit points in these cards that I have to be doing the extra damage here to get through this stuff. We'll go ahead and do this to save these pieces. I'm not going to be able to kill that. Like, there's just no way I can chew through that many hit points. I can kill that. And getting two of these guys out will guarantee that I pull Rakarth to the board, who I should be able to take down. Ooh, gnarly. Okay, I'm glad I played that taunt card when I did. And that taunt card should actually be able to hold out for a bit, even without the taunt on it. So we pulled Rakarth himself, still have 5 cards, my 3 on the board and then my 2 in the deck. So we're actually going to be able to hit this guy really hard before we even drop Vahl, which is excellent. That is exactly where I want to be. So we're going to hit him with poison, hopefully. Yeah, got him with poison. All of my cards survived. So there you see that chip jam is charging it up so that my Vahl can land and do the lethal blow without exposing herself. Like that, poisoning the enemy warlord is such a massive swing. Probably going melee, that doesn't do very much damage. So we're going to go this just to block that. And then hope. And hope, hope, hope. And we have it. Boom. Okay. So I was planning for the end game that entire time, trying not to lose my cards too quickly, but sacrificing some for the utility of getting through the thicker, beefier, more frightening of the Rakarth cards. So now I'm 2-1, I think, unless I'm 3-1. Excuse me, unless I'm 1-3. I believe I've had 2 losses and had 1 win so far. So let's take a quick look at our ladder stack here. And come on. It's really important to keep checking this because I don't want to gain the trophies and then lose them immediately, right? It's also really important to keep laddering this lowest one because the further it gets from the other ones, the more wins I have to get in a row to impact this. And if we're truly leapfrogging, it takes a fair amount of dedication here. So I'm trying to go fairly quickly. Hopefully this isn't too quick because I'm trying to make a point of actually getting a lot of games in, showing you kind of what's in the ladder, and this is bad. Yeah. Okay. Why is this bad? That's a 3.6K trophy. What's his butt? Trazen deck where he's going to try to steal my cards, and I have to be very, very careful about what I play when to make sure I don't lose them. Because the highest point card that I have is the one that can get stolen if it gets low enough in points. So I have to keep that card very safe. Here I've gone the very conservative route where I've got my regen card to just build up some extra hit points. Does shoot back. That's a largely ranged opposing deck, so that's really helpful. He also has the ranged ready to build up really devastating ranged attacks when I do drop my Inquisitor Karazmazov, the dreadnoughty thing. Well, that's not good. So that is not good, but it's also not bad because the target acquired on this means that he's not hitting the card that would actually that he could actually steal. So I want to make sure that I keep hitting this as hard as I can. And I played my AoE Psyker early because he's got the fear. He's not my highest cost card in the game. And he is... Now, just to talk through that a little bit. So you saw me consider playing Karazmazov, my highest hit point card, who will take over the target acquired target priority from this guy. So I can prevent this guy being stolen by playing a higher cost card after he's on the board, but I don't have to do that yet because this guy still has a good chunk of hit points and still has that fear. So I should be okay for another turn or two while I chew through some of these guys and give Karazmazov as much time on the board as possible. Okay, so far this is good, but based on the relatively low cost of the cards that Trazen has dropped so far, there's still a lot of points left in that deck. So that second to last card before the Warlord drops is going to be really, really scary, and that could be a big problem depending on which lane he drops in. Fortunately, it's probably going to be at the rightmost lane because that's the one I'm going to clear first, which is awesome. Unless he does a shuffle where all the cards move to the right. We'll see. Okay. Very scary Nightbringer. That's bad. Yep, there it goes. Okay. So you saw him capture my card. Okay. So we want to do this. Why are we doing this? So we've got Taunt on the right here because this one has enough range damage. It should be able to kill this thing. This guy is the high range damage. He should be enough to kill this thing, and I can poison this thing, and then that positions her in the middle lane to poison Trazen himself when he drops. Nice. Perfect. And then we've got our scary Taunt over here that'll absorb a lot of damage, and then this guy has that fear and a lot of hit points, who is not only not across from the Nightbringer, which is also good, but also is comfortably able to take this guy out. So now Karazmazov is safe. He will not be stolen, which is exactly the end game status I wanted. So that is great. So this still is a little bit scary, but I should comfortably pull this one out. And this is really good because even though I took the 2 losses, now I'm up against a deck with a dramatically higher trophy rating than mine, so that this will be the win I take will actually make up the majority of the losses I've gotten so far. So we have lethal. Let's get him. Splat. Now, I do want to highlight another thing here too, is both of the games that I lost, I could have won if I didn't make some kind of fundamental play mistakes. And that's a real challenging thing about leapfrogging, is you're switching back and forth between warlords so quickly that unless you sit down and dedicate a bunch of hours to your play at the same time, it's really easy to kind of forget the tips and tricks you would take during your games. Okay, so I believe that's 2 and 2. So net, I should actually be up a little bit. Let's see where we are. Well, yeah, so the tactics I was discussing while I was playing that game, I wanted to do that out loud because that's helpful to me. To kind of make sure I'm doing the right things at the right time. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I placing this here? Okay, so we're back up where 1 win will bump me into potentially my top 4. See, they're all so close in trophy count. If I get a really good win, it could bump me to 4th, or 3rd, excuse me. So we'll see. We'll see if I can pull off another win. Just to do a snapshot of the whole deck again, doubling down on poison, doubling down on taunt. Regen guy's just in there because he makes up the points, and this guy's in here because he's such a massive chunk of points. This guy's here, of course, for the AoE Psionic Blast, fear, and hit points. Just got a buff this season, where I believe both his psychic attack went up and his hit points. So huge buff to that card. So that is, and several of the cards in here were buffed this season, which made it make sense to bring them. So like Maylindy, the skin suit assassin. Aww. Maylindy, the Skin Suit Assassin, the Independent Psyker, this guy, are ones who did get bumps this season. Okay, so this is perfect. So I saw the Shielded Terminator drop, so I played my Area Effect Psyker, who can clear the shields. So Psionic Blast is an incredibly powerful piece here. I am also going to go ahead and do this, so that I can poison that, because he has the higher hit points of the 2. Perfect. And a couple things here. One of the reasons that this deck is as effective as it has been, I swear it's effective, not the last couple of rounds notwithstanding, is that the poison is incredibly powerful against very heavy shields and very heavy fear, both of which are really common at upper level play. And this one in particular has an edge against Glogothrox because if poison gets the death blow, that's bad. If poison gets the final kill on something, then it doesn't count as your card getting that kill. That's bad. It doesn't count as your card getting that final kill, so you don't get the damage debuff. Now, here's a really challenging thing. This thing is high enough level, 16, that my poison will almost be negated on it. It's got almost 500 hit points. I'm going to be doing 6 damage to it per turn. So I have to make sure to continue to hit this thing and poison it. So the poison's going to negate its regen. But beyond that, it's not going to do a whole lot. So I have to deal with that, and I have to deal with it quickly. Fortunately, I'm still, with the Psionic Blast, able to hit other parts of the board at the same time. I should not have gone ranged on that. I should have gone Psychic. Yep, because bat. So I need to hit that thing and hit it really hard, really fast. Because my Psionic Blast is gone. Now I only have one more poison card left. I don't want to lose him on the off chance that I can hit Glogothrox himself with it. That was really good because putting that thing across from Karazmazov, who's going to die anyway, but that did reduce his damage across the board that time. So I'm bleeding cards really, really quickly here. We're going to do this. Do I want to do that? Because that will kill this guy and kill that guy. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. Now I took the damage buff, and that damage buff doesn't matter as much because Melindy is poison. Her. Oh, Jesus, she lived through that. Okay. Now it doesn't really matter because she's about to die in the Psionic Blast anyway. This is an incredibly powerful card. And here's the thing, when you see my Glogothrox deck, it's very similar to that, because Glogothrox, we'll talk about that when we get there. I may go ahead and switch to that after this game, because this is not going well. Because even now, I'm out of bodyguards, and Glogothrox still hasn't even hit the board, and there's nothing I can do to chunk through those in time. That was a really, really powerful play. I almost killed the chicken. This is where this deck could really benefit from powerful target acquired. The good news is I barely lost any trophies on that, so my wins are going to be higher than that. So one win will not only negate that loss, but also get me a little bit higher, because the minimum trophies you get from a win is 45, which is so good for laddering aggressively at this point. Where the minimum you can lose from getting stomped on, I don't know that there is a limit. I had at least one game I played this past couple weeks where I lost 4 trophies because I was so such the underdog in that match. And we will switch Warlords at some point soon, assuming that my servants actually get anywhere. Because I want to show up some of the other decks and talk a little bit about how they work. And I'm going to talk about the actual design philosophy about them in a minute here. Because again, I wanted to highlight my collection is mine. It's very unique. I wanted to highlight how I would design a deck. So let's actually take another look at where we are in the trophies right now. I may go ahead and switch to Chaos just to shake it up a little bit. Now, that is kind of a bad idea because I already talked about you want to know how to play your decks. And every time you switch decks, you have to kind of relearn a little bit how to do it. But let's go ahead and do that. So she's still pretty close. Still enough we're 1 or 2 wins away from getting into the same kind of tier as the others. Because 1 win would be at least 45, so we're 3380 something. Yeah, which would be real close. And then 2 wins would definitely get me up in here. But they would have to be 2 wins in a row, or wins where my losses hurt less than my wins gain me more than my losses hurt. So if I go up against another 28k deck, or 2.8k deck, I'm in real trouble. Okay. We're going to keep trying Vahl. Let's see it, Vahl. Let's do it. Let's do better. So I probably made the wrong call in that game. The thing is, I had to kill the Lord of Change if I could kill it, but I wasn't guaranteed to be able to. I didn't have target acquired. I didn't have lethal in a turn. I really didn't know if there was going to be an opportunity for me to do lethal damage to it. not knowing whether or not I could do lethal damage, I probably would have been better off leaving it on the board and ignoring it. We are going to go ahead and do this. And now there, I know that there's going to be quite a bit of barrage, so I threw my taunt on there to prevent the barrage, but I specifically put it over here so it's not removing the defensive buffs from my Kulexis Assassin, because I want to keep him on the board as long as possible. Both because if his fear, if he's across from the most damaging card in the game, or the most damaging card in that particular line, he will reduce its total damage as long as it's in front of him, which is really good because that'll save damage from all the other cards on the board. And yikes, that hurt. Okay. And now here, very similar to what I was doing with the Lord of Change, I'm trying to bring this thing down. So I'm making the same choice that I did against the Lord of Change. Hopefully, it is not a mistake this time like it was that time. Lost my Kulexis Assassin. I did get this guy poisoned, so that is good. But he's still got 5 cards in the deck, and so far I've only seen the squishiest stuff that he's got on offer. Yeah, okay, that's bad. That could be a lot worse. That's kind of okay. So this is going to die. These two are both going to survive, and I should have a good chance to hit this guy and do some real meaningful damage to it before the Warlord drops. And if it comes down, okay, so there's a chance here. This is not bad. It's not great. I say not bad. This is bad. This is very bad because the problem is I lost cards too quickly. And there's kind of the danger that Supreme Commander Vahl hit. There was a moment a couple weeks ago where I was completely down on this deck and stopped running it because it was hitting walls like this that were just like incredibly bad matchups. And Darkstrider is one of the worst matchups you can possibly get with this deck. Good news, I only lost 11 trophies. So I lost 11 trophies and the time it took to play that game. So I've talked before about how the biggest difference between a high-rated deck and a medium to low-rated deck is time. And that's because you play games like that. So the actual trophy penalty was not bad. The playtime benefit or playtime downside is a little bit worse. But Darkstrider is one of those. So far we've actually seen several of the Warlords you really need to be worried about at upper tier. I'm going to go ahead and say melee Space Marines because Logan is up here, so he's pretty common. And then actually melee Akaran is pretty common too. So those guys heavy melee. We saw Psychic Glogothrox, which is a big problem because he's very cheap and you can fill that deck with Psychers. And then we also saw Tau. Now, really heavy hitting Tau is one of the most dangerous things you'll run into up here because they have so much taunt. And the really power cards have so much damage and so many hit points that even with this, when I'm trying to poison those key pieces, it doesn't decide the matches because it still takes too long to bring down those big cards. Both because the poison takes a long time to work because they have so many hit points, and also because I'm not hitting them with direct damage to push the poison forward, right? So we'll try it again. Bang our heads against it. This is part of why I wanted to record this process, was to show what kind of you can do if you really want to, oh, balls. Pardon my French. What you can do to really climb up. Now, I say that because that Supreme Commander, Belisarius Call, who is a problem this season. Yeah, so one of the things is if I'm playing against Call, I usually assume that I'm going to lose, which is fine. Wow, that worked out. Which is fine ish as long as I'm winning most of my other matches, because usually the Call decks are very high rated, which this one is as well. And if you pull out a win against them, it really helps your trophy count. But if you lose, it usually doesn't hurt very much. So it's kind of okay. It's not the worst thing in the world to see them, but what really makes the Call decks threatening, a lot of people talk about the damage, and the damage is bad, where everything does a minimum. So every friendly servant's card in one of these Call decks always does its a minimum of 75% of its damage, including through fear and through shields. That it goes through shields is just a real head scratcher. But what really makes these decks so dangerous isn't the guaranteed damage. The real biggest problem with these guys is the regen. So the thing is, you can beat Call decks, but the way to do it is you got to kill the cards really quickly so they don't do that and just chip heal. And yeah, so like there, Yeah, so they don't chip heal and really just kind of ruin your day. There you did see that Vahl's shield is one of the few upgrades that still does reduce the total damage that your cards take, which is huge. So the 30% damage reduction also further will reduce incoming damage beyond 75% of the card's power. That was very confusing, a lot of words. But long story short, what that means is that you can tank a little bit better than most other cards. But that's what's really challenging here is I had a chance to punch through this right here, to punch through that line. And I may actually still be able to kill this. Yeah, I can't. So between the Medicae and the automatic regen, this thing will just win the one-on-one against my Psyker. And he's even healed enough where the poison won't kill him now either. So he's got a whole nother turn, and he will not die to the poison. So that was 2 entire turns that this guy was on the board longer than he would have been for any other Warlord, which is a massive problem in beating this deck. And then there's the other type, Psyker. Yeah. Oh god, and 41 points. That hurts, because he was higher rated than me. I didn't expect to lose that badly. Okay. We're going to take a look at, do we do it? Okay, so we've had some extremely bad luck in a pretty long string. We are going to go ahead and do this Vahl deck one more time, because this is the one that I climbed up with most aggressively last. So this is the last deck to really perform well in my Servants of the Emperor faction. Yeah, and I'm going to put chapter markers on here to mark the individual warlords so you can jump around a little bit. Let's see. So if it's not if it's not Vahl, and we do one of the other Servants of the Emperor warlords, it could be Canoness, it could be Creed. Servants are kind of a tough faction in that they have some of the most powerful warlords in the game, but they have a lot of the most powerful warlords in the game. Let's see, what are we going to do? Not that one. This one's really good. The volume of Taunt and Medicae. It really focuses on burst damage, has some of that poison, has shields that can redeploy to give you multiple shields, has a little bit of melee and ranged. This is a good one. The problem is if I run any Creed deck, and then I run up against Glogothrox again, that would be a real problem real quick. Another option, of course, is Greyfax, who's incredibly strong. And this deck is hilariously powerful. I played this early on as my momentum deck. Just because looking at these, that's less than, 40 points of cards on the table, but this gives me like a 60% bonus. So it's an insanely powerful deck, much more powerful than it looks. And it does tend to get me favorable matches. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and... Greyfax has fallen out of favor since she's gotten some pretty significant nerfs over the last year or two. And so a lot of players have stopped playing her because she is considered weak now because she got nerfed, where, oh no, the game speed has gone down. This is funny. When I play a few games back to back, oh no, there we go. Ooh, good. Yeah, I totally have expensive cards here that you can hit with Big Game Hunter. So this is a 4-point card, and he's doing 40 range damage and has 114 hit points per life. He's extremely good for what you get, and this has a 65% bonus. Yeah. Get turned over 44. All right, we'll go here. And this is against Logan. We got a bunch of ranged cards in a Logan deck. That's interesting. And then the combination of the flat buff from Greyfax plus Inspiring Presence from this guy, these cards hit insanely hard. And even if you lose one, it is relatively minor because it's a 9-point card. Let's see, how hard does she hit? I think we're going to go ahead and do this. Let's get crazy. So the Brutalis Dreadnought is going to be taking up a lot of points in this deck, especially because Logan himself is so expensive. So let's gamble. And she has Big Game Hunter too. He's more than 40 points. And the Big Game Hunter does an extra 40% or 45% damage. That's 1.5 times her damage of 80, which should be 120 something. So it's not quite going to be enough. But I don't want that thing to hit me either. That 126 should make up the difference. We'll try it. Oh, that I forgot. Her big game hunter would apply to a range too. But did you see that? That was this is a 9-point card and it's doing almost 130 range damage with barrage. Yeah, this deck is bananas. And I would also like to point out too that this is cheesing a little bit. I want to be really clear on that. Where I may talk a little trash about Call, but this Greyfax, because it doesn't run a full deck and doesn't run anywhere near the full deck points, the matchmaking looks at it and sees a much weaker deck. So the matches you get tend to be much more favorable. So it makes your games easier. I think I will defer to the game designers on how that works, but I believe that that is true, and I've said that before and haven't been called on it before, so we'll see. Okay, Greyfax, let's ride this. Let's see what happens. And I've got a couple Greyfax decks to go ahead and try. I do want to point out that the cards that I just used were, I think, exclusively common or rare, aside from Greyfax herself. My Greyfax is very high level right now because I've had her for quite a while. Yeah, one rare and then the rest are common, and this rare is worth every freaking every single one of those 9 points, especially with Greyfax on the table with max level Inspiring Presence. So against Darkstrider, let's see if this goes better than the last one. And I'm playing the card with the highest hit points early, because I want to tank some. Okay, tank some hits. Now, I made a bit of a mistake there because what I should have done is play all of my barrage cards so that I would hit the adjacent damage as much as possible. Of course, he's going to go ranged. I'm going to hit back. I don't really have any technical cards in here. I don't have any taunt. So this could go extremely badly. But the good news is if you see that on the table, you know that there's basically nothing else in the deck. There's not much else that could go in that. And considering the number of cards still listed in there, and Darkstrider nuts, hopefully he doesn't deploy to the side. He did. Gross. Huh. Now, here's where I hope I don't die outright, because if I don't, I have a decent chance to really mess up this line. We got to go for it. But even if I do, chances are Darkstrider is going to just murder me in the return fire. Okay. It is possible for me to win this, especially because those cards suck, but now Greyfax is by herself. Okay, so a level 7 Storm Surge was not on my bingo cards that time, so that did not go well. Okay, all right, servants. We're gonna try. Now I'm actually gonna play around with servants here and see what sticks, because this is pretty brutal, and I need to climb up with the faction. So this is part of the process, right? And I did say this was going to be a little bit longer of a video because I want to go through the entire process, every single step of the way, and show kind of what goes into each step. And sometimes you bang your head against it for a bit and figure out if a faction is actually going to be able to get into your upper trophy tier. And if you really, really want to get the upper level rewards, you do have to find something that works, even if it takes a while. The upside, though, is even looking here, I'm really not far from the place that I want to be at in my trophies. I'm still at 3.26. So one more win puts me back in spitting distance, and then 2 puts me in a very, very good spot. I am up against a Psychic deck. That is a huge problem. We'll see. The good thing, though, is that is why this deck has alternate attack types of melee and ranged. So I can see what else he's got and hit him with something. Wow, hang on. Wow, okay. That makes it a little bit easier. Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and just nail this guy. So this is what we call an easier match. Why am I laughing? Why am I saying it's an easier match? Because this is a really low-level Tigurius, which makes him not scary. He immediately lost his shields, is barely doing any return fire in Psychic. As much as damage I was taking from that guy, I am not scared of this. That is worse. But I've already made such headway that Voldus himself is on the table. This should not be a problem at all. Boop. Max level Inspiring Presence, blast the heck out of that field, punch it. Yeah, so easy win. That was an easy matchup. The one thing that's funny is even at this level of play, even at the 3,000 trophy level in Upper Terra, I'm still hitting decks that are easy matchups. And it's not just with this Greyfax deck. You do tend to get some easier matches after a losing streak. If you have a losing record, the matches kind of recalculate a bit and you have a couple easy ones. So you can actually ride a loss into a big gain in trophies, but it takes, again, a lot of time going in. So I didn't check the actual bonus number on this. This is all of my area effect psychers now that I have my level 9 Calexis Assassin. So I've got all 3 Psionic Blast psychers. I think, actually, I'm not sure, the Navigator's not in there anymore. Never mind. So I've got my Poison Psyker, which is going to be great here, and then my 2 Psionic Blast psychers, and I believe I have a 40% bonus, which is really good with the base power on these cards. Poison. You got Shield Strip. Oh, that's a bummer. You got Shield Stripping, you got Poison, you got all kinds of stuff in here. It doesn't have the utility of Taunt, Medicate, or Target Acquired, which is a bit of a bummer, but it does so much damage that it's usually not a problem. Poison. There you can see the utility of Poison being hugely important. That comes up a lot. And this, again, this is a dramatically lower level Akaran deck. These, well, okay, level 12. Okay, no, not lower level, but not exactly fine-tuned. Like, none of these are cards that I would generally be afraid of. And that's a little bit important to note here because this is going quite well. And now I really don't need her in here. I have her in here as an alternative Inspiring Presence that I can use before putting Greyfax on the table, which is good, but I don't know that I need it. So I could drop her and have higher points in this deck, but it is really, really nice to have the extra bodyguard here taking the flank so that when I do kill Akaran, I am able to actually take out his second life. Because here I could hit him for 100, but it wouldn't matter because he'd get his second life, but since I can hit him again from the flank, that really helps. So having at least one extra body in there is still really important in that deck, but it might be worth getting the extra like 5% bonus that I would get from dropping Rain. How are we doing? Are we at all climbing back to where we were? Because we had several losses where we didn't lose a ton of trophies, and then we had a couple where we lost a lot, and then we had wins where we always won 45. So net in our trophy count, we should be somewhat close to where we started. And you do have moments where you feel like you're treading water, which is not great. So yeah, we're very close to where we were. I think it was like 33-40 something at some point. So I'm gonna play another one with this. We'll play until we lose, and then switch it up. But we are on a winning streak now, and there is a forced warlord rotation where I'm not going to see the warlords that I've fought so far again for a while. That hasn't been perfect. Like right now, this is a lot sooner than I should see another Helbrecht. So I'm curious how that's changed, or if it's struggling to find decks with this trophy count, and so has to, okay. So it has to do something like that. Okay, good. So I was considering putting my Poison Psyker across from Mephiston, who I am going to want across from Mephiston, but I was concerned about the Taunt card or about Mephiston switching lanes, and so I wanted to play that a little bit safe and save my Poison Psyker to hit him later. These two are some of the prime candidates for why you want Poison in your decks. And oh my god, we went straight into another Taunt. But as you can see, that area effect is really helpful in clearing those. Now, if there's a card in the middle lane, odds are extremely high that it is going to move. So that's why I'm doing this. Good. Okay, sweet. Although that's another guy I want to poison. And we're doing okay, but until that final round, it's a little bit hard to see how exactly this is going to turn out. All right, we've got the area effect. I'm very glad this guy's over here because he will not be vulnerable to this guy's death blow, which is about to trigger. And then we'll be alone against Helbrecht, which I consider a favorable matchup, but we'll have to see how that goes because he no longer has Furious Charge. He does have... Ooh, okay. Should be fairly comfortable. Yeah, we got it. Whew, okay. I was clenching a bit on that one. And that may actually be the win we need to get us up to into my top 4. And so that's... No, not quite. That is how quickly that can turn, but we're real close. So now Servants is 2 points, 2 trophies below the top 4. So we're going to play that again because it's been working, in part because we've been getting the favorable matchups. But another reason I bring that up is that you want to watch that rotation because I'm not going to get another Akaran for a while, and the Akaran that I was up against was a really favorable match for me. So that means that I'm not going to hit a really nasty Akaran for a minute here. So I can play this with a little bit more confidence, even though this is one of my best decks to play against Akaran. Okay, it's not Akaran. but it's another melee Marines. And that last one was a little bit close for my taste, so we'll see how this goes. All right. Play Rain again. That worked really well, and her Inspiring Presence is really good to... what's it going to be? It's really good to spike the damage output of my... Oh, sweet. All right. So this is one of those beautiful occasions of the AI just absolutely handing me this win. Because yeah, okay. Had those Medicaes been played later to the point where they actually buffed up the defense of any of the more offensive cards in that deck, that would have been a real problem. But because they played first, you saw the Medicae themselves, and all of these are much less dangerous than they would have been normally. So that is phenomenal. Love it. Love to see it. And then we're going to nuke the heck out of this, and we should have a favorable matchup in the end game. But it is still Logan. It's another fairly low level Logan, but yeah, comfortably. Okay. A lot of that depended on the card level of the stuff I was going up against. If this was a higher level Logan, he would have a lot more hit points and a lot more damage. As it stands, though, cakewalk. Okay. We have now hit 14,000 trophies. Yay! Okay, and now that means we get to switch warlords. So 14,000 trophies? Yeah, look at that. Whole digit. Now we're going to check in on the actual ladder and see where we are. And then we're going to leapfrog our factions a bit. And it should be very quick to when we actually do the... that was a very slow climb. And that's sort of where it's been hitting. Is I was assuming that Servants of the Emperor were going to be one of my, if not my, most powerful thing. I went up 1 point in all that mess. Here's a big problem I want to mention and why leapfrogging is risky. So again, I came into this expecting Servants of the Emperor to be basically my most powerful faction. I thought my Vahl deck was designed really well, and it is. It's got a lot of very good matchups, but some bad luck and some definitely overmatched games, and some things falling a little bit short of what I hoped. Particularly Vahl's damage herself in the end game hasn't been enough to seal enough wins if they're close. If it's a one-on-one with Vahl and another Warlord, my Vahl is low enough level that she's not hitting hard enough to close that out without support from one of the wings. Why I mentioned that position is that the way this works is if you have a trophy count that is tied with another player, whichever player got there first gets that position. So I could be tied with 100 people who are in 94th position who have the exact number of trophies that I have, but each of them will be a little bit different. So, but love to see it. Servants of the Emperor bumped to my third. So now Tau, oh, Chaos. Ooh, let's do Chaos. So now my sixth is Chaos, and so we're going to switch over to that. And this is a case where I'm going to go ahead and jump out and talk about actual deck construction, right? So before I even show this, I talked about Greyfax. Looking into that, her ability is the fewer deck points you spend, the higher of a bonus you get in percents to hit points and damage and attack stats, and all of the cards in your deck, including Greyfax herself. That last piece is hugely important because Greyfax herself is really scary, especially if you start adding 50-60% bonus to this. Plus that Inspiring Presence that stacks, and then also that Big Game Hunter. And again, that is both to her hit points and to her attack stats. Now, key thing there, it is extremely common to see Medicae in Greyfax decks. I consider that a waste because the points you're spending on Medicae are reducing the hit points buff you get in your deck in the first place. So anything outside of the 5-point Medicae is a total waste, and then those cards really do basically nothing in game. So you're better off with Inspiring Presence or Taunt or Target Acquired than you are with Medicae. Don't bring Medicae in your Greyfax decks. Just don't do it. Diminishing returns. Now, it's not a total waste because you are gaining back wounds that you have lost potentially, but it's just not net worth it, I don't think, because you get so little out of it for Greyfax specifically. You do want to get as much as possible out of those few points, so you're looking for your hyper-efficient, very survivable cards, your cards that do things like Psionic Blast, your cards that do things like extra damage against types of cards like anti-infantry, or who have poison. So you want those really utility pieces, those really efficient pieces that can help you close out games. That's Greyfax. For a lot of Warlords, they have specific attack type themes, like Illic right here. The entire thing I would do with Illic is I would go with Illic. His ability triggers exclusively around ranged attacks. So, I'm going to edit this. Yeah, I can edit it right here. His ability triggers specifically around ranged attacks. So I would filter here and say ranged, highest, apply. His ability is so very exclusively targeted towards ranged attacks. I would just go max ranged, and look in like your 30 to 40 point scale. Because unless you have a really high level of these guys, they're not going to be worth it because they're just so expensive for the power they have. Now they're really good, but they give you so few other cards in your deck that they got to be very high level to be worth it. So I'm not running any of these. I would run this guy, that big game hunter, really head hitting. I'd run this guy, hits very hard and has that outflank. I'd run this guy because it has the extra utility of Psionic Blast on top of mine being high enough level to hit very hard. I think its base range is like 80 something. But obviously the really strong choices are going to be things like these two that have precision shot, barrage, outflank, and extremely high native attack values because they'll hit something with precision shot and then you can follow up with an actual attack, really upping the chances that they will just free remove one of the cards from Illic. Now you'll note that in this I also have a little taunt, I've got a little Medicae, I've got a little extra precision shot, and I've got regen in here just to have something that can be a little bit thicker. Now that extra bit of flavor is in there because number one, to fill points. Number two, because I found that my decks were dying too quickly with Illic, and if I had a loss, it was because my cards died too fast. So I put this guy in here as a Tar Pit, who also has a really strong ranged attack, just to be one that would be kind of give you that extra survivability, plus still combo with the ability of the deck. This guy doesn't combo, this guy doesn't combo. They're there for pure utility. This guy's here because he has the Scout. He's got a good ranged attack himself, great points for the hit points, and then that ranged Scout bumps the range damage of all of my other cards when he drops. So that's kind of the philosophy behind that. Be very similar for a warlord like Tolmaron. Where are you, Tolmaron? Where's Toblerone? I filtered this by range damage, and Tolmaron is hilariously low on range damage. There you go. Now with Tolmaron, his ability is dependent on more cards being dropped. So you want to have more cards in your deck. There's my Pure Blood Angels themed one that just flies directly in the face of this. But you want a full deck as close as possible. You want cards that will survive so that they can be meat shields for your heavy hitters. You want some heavy hitters who have a high enough base damage that they can benefit a lot from a percent attack bonus. And then you want the cards that you fill in with, ideally, to have a ranged attack so that they can also benefit from Tolmaron's trait, even if it's not as much as your heavy hitters. They still are contributing to combat in ways that, say, this guy don't. So this is pretty classic, where you have just two very, very big planes and then the stuff to fill around them. I've split this into a couple cheaper cards, and then the Medicae. It's very common for these guys to be taunt cards instead of extra ranged, and not to have a fear in there. So shields, taunt, Medicae all keep your big flyers alive. The barrage and poison are incredibly important in this build for the reasons I've talked about, those being really important in the upper ladder. And then we've got this one that is just, I did that filter by range and then just looked at a combination of points cost versus ranged attack. So these are not my highest ranged attack cards, but they are probably point for point my highest ranged attack cards based on the amount of points I spend for them. So this is a full deck where every one of these has a meaningful ranged attack, including some precision shots, some inspiring presence, some poison. But also it's a full deck, so there is never a wrong first play. There's never a wrong last play. I don't have any cards just sort of sitting in the wings twiddling their thumbs. All these guys are on theme. They all contribute importantly. That's one of the things about those warlords whose ability affects a specific attack type, like Logan Grimnar, like Tolmaron, like Helbrecht. That's kind of the philosophy to build around any of those. And then you've got weird warlords like Azrael, where for him, I'd be tempted to, because his ability is not only attack type agnostic, it's one where it really wants you to have multiple attack types, because his ability gives you a flat permanent attack buff every time you attack with something you didn't attack with the previous turn. So that's why I've got my Dreadnoughts in here, just as absolute tar pits. Max Medicae and Taunt for the points. He's expensive, so it's kind of hard to fill that, so that's why all of these guys are so points efficient. I've got the 5-point filler, Medicae, Taunt, and then Furious Charge to go in with the Haymaker melee is the big thing in this deck. But these are really good because they have the high melee and they have meaningful ranged out of the gate, so they really benefit from the trait as well. So, but for this, I started with the utility cards because I knew I wanted them, and then actually had to handpick and go through my collection and look for nice balanced cards, like the Dreadnoughts that had decent cost, very high hit points, and had good attack stats in both. This guy was obviously the first pick because his ranged and melee are identical, so you can use either one first and have a really impressive benefit going up very quickly. Then let's talk about some other ones. Rakarth is someone who benefits a lot from very durable cards. So he's one where I'd be tempted to just filter by hit points and start there. Let's look at some of the others. That's kind of a weird one that I don't necessarily recommend. So you want to look by hit points. That's Psychic Rakarth is very scary. This is a better one. So it's very spread out again, like the ones that I looked at before, the other Tolmaron deck, because all of these are chunking up a pretty significant amount of points. I've got Poison, I've got Big Game Hunter, I've got Medicae, I've got a Berserk and Regen, and then I've got Inspiring Presence. All of those help push damage through and have a combination of bonus damage and defense. This guy, especially if you're really soaking up points and getting more and more kills, then this guy just soaks up so many hit points and becomes incredibly terrifying. And then these guys are filler, either to die early or, in the case of this one, surprisingly powerful late game for a 7-point card, because that hit point is huge and the base melee is not great, but coming with Berserk, that adds up real fast. And then this guy, I believe, is target acquired. Yep, for the extra utility. Obviously low level, but he's in there for the ability regardless, and anti-infantry. Yeah. This one kind of just in here to stick with the all Drukhari theme. I really love that these cheap Drukhari cards were added because they have abilities that trigger with Rakarth, which is awesome. And then they also have, hit points and stats to go into there. So won't talk about that too much. I hope that helped. The reason I talked about that now is because I wanted to talk about my design for Glogothrox. One point I didn't highlight about Tolmaron is that Tolmaron is the cheapest of the Space Marine Warlords, which means that early on, I checked that just a second, that means that early on you would just take your most powerful Space Marine cards, your highest level, your highest stats, put them in a Tolmaron deck, and it lets you pack it with your most powerful stuff, even if it doesn't synergize with Tolmaron's ability. Likewise, this is a Psychic Glogothrox. The reason why being is Glogothrox is one of, not quite, the cheapest Chaos Warlord out there. His ability will help keep your power pieces alive. So you've got a little bit of Endless and Taunt in here to kind of feed some of the really powerful cards out there, like a Long Strike or the terrifying Shadow thing we saw in that Darkstrider deck. But mostly this leans around really powerful Psychers, especially the Lord of Change. Because the Lord of Change is one of the single most powerful cards in the game, and almost certainly the most powerful card in Chaos, and will win games for you by itself. Hands down, easy. It does so much damage and has so many hit points that it... Ooh, okay. Right out of the gate, something scary. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. Okay. All right. But yeah, so the Lord of Change will win you games. Oh, it's a Psychic deck. That's a bummer. But this is why we bring Glogothrox. Yeah, so it'll win you games by itself, the Lord of Change, but then I've also kind of comboed into this deck, and he should have held that. The AI gave me this one. Now, it is a bit of a bummer that we are looking at... Oh yeah, it's not my turn. Yikes. It is a bit of a bummer that he's running a bunch of poison, because this one will not take the damage debuff because it is a little bit too... It will not take the damage debuff because the actual killing blows are being done by poison. Yeah. Now, that play was a mistake. Let me talk about why. The chicken will win you games by itself. It's one of the most powerful cards in the game, period. One of the most powerful Psychers in the game. Arguably the best card in Chaos, period. But if you run it, you have to keep it alive because it's so expensive. And as powerful as it is, it's not invincible. And it's one of those cards that can die surprisingly easily. And so you need the stuff to keep it alive. So Glogothrox gives you the double advantage of not only being the cheapest, so you can pack more stuff in there, but also having a trait that's very defensive long term that gives your chicken a much better chance of surviving long term because you can nerf the offensive output of enemy power pieces, which is huge. So this actually should be a relatively easy win. Why did I never say that? Never ever say outright, this should be an easy win. And then some additional utility in this one. I've got obviously my... Ooh, okay, that could have been worse. And he's not doing melee because my melee is almost comparable to his, which is a great place to be. Got this guy in here as the additional Medicae who also does Psychic. So my primary attack type is Psychic. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's real bad. Okay. Oh, that's real bad. Crap. And now here, I hope his Psychic does. Yeah, it's really freaking high. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm going to lose this first one right out of the gate. That was a really bad matchup. Ooh. Ooh, we got it. I had no right winning that one. I'm incredibly glad, and that was so lucky. Wow. I didn't actually see the final attack type he used, because I think if he'd used melee, he would have just flattened me. So that immediately bumped my chaos into, I think, rank 3. Yep. So I'm going to be playing Servants of the Emperor again real quick. But yeah, so here you can see the leapfrogging. This is how it works. And ideally, you're actually winning most of your games, so you're bumping up fairly consistently. But that's about finding your sweet spot, finding the right deck, and playing it well. So why did that Glogothrox deck work? Poison was huge. Fear was very helpful. I had just enough taunt and just enough hit points to make it to that end game, but also I had the Lord of Change doing constant damage and taking out key cards going through. Had a lot of Psychic, had a lot of Medicae. All of that together made it a very durable deck that was also punching very hard. So Glogothrox is, I personally have said many times, often viewed as probably the worst of the Chaos Warlords, but when it comes to really upper tier play with very high level bodyguards, Glogothrox is arguably one of the most powerful warlords in the game. Especially because in the upper ladder, there are a lot of decks running around that don't run full decks. Either they don't have the full number of cards in their deck because they've spent enough points on some of the bodyguards to not have enough for extra bodyguards, or because there are a couple really powerful key pieces that do most of the work, and they're supported by other cards, your taunts, your medicaes, your cheat fillers. So having a warlord who can permanently reduce the damage of power pieces in your opponent's deck is massive. Combine that with a very efficient warlord who has fear for the end game to be pretty sticky, is dirt cheap himself and can swing pretty hard in melee, as you just saw. Glogothrox is actually extremely good, and I was a little bit surprised to find that he is my best performing Chaos Warlord, and then had to kind of peel back, why is this working? Why is he so good? So we're going to switch to Tau. We're going to jump around to Tau. Tau was a late add. I was actually leveling up Necrons briefly, and then was like, I personally am not having fun with this. Let me try Tau instead. And also I was seeing so much Tau in the upper ladder that it kind of made sense to do it for me. Now here's the thing though. So Dark Strider is the, let me reset this. No, it's still right. Dark Strider is the standard who you see the most often of the Tau Warlords. I've seen basically Dark Strider is the Tau Warlord. I personally think that Shazzo is better. Why? Because Dark Strider relies on losing cards. So you're losing cards to kind of benefit his free attacks. It's still really powerful, but it does have some really bad matchups like Glogothrox. And then also, excuse me, one of the biggest things is that in the end game, Dark Strider himself loses basically every time, except in the game where I played against him. I have really noticed in this aggressive ladder climbing the incredible importance of running a warlord who can win a fight at the end, whether that's by not dying so your body cards can do the extra work, where Glogothrox both has that game-long damage buff, a lot of poison, and then also decent melee himself, and fear, so that he can also survive a little bit better. Let me make sure I'm thinking about this before I play. Who is Mozrog? Okay. Near max level Mozrog. Great. Bump down a taunt. Couple things about Tau. They have the tremendous benefit of being incredibly fast. They have a lot of flying cards, a lot of precision shot cards, and so a lot of their stuff has very high initiative. So your chances of going first are very good, which is good and bad. It is good because it means that your chances of going first are really good. It is bad because it basically guarantees that you are going to deploy first. Okay, I should have put another. And so you saw there that I put down target acquired and then wasted it because I didn't want to take the shot that I had. I should have put another barrage on the table because that could potentially kill this guy, but we'll see here. Couple things about this before I move on. One of the reasons Shazzo is so good is he takes your base attack stat and just buffs it. So it's it's increased by 25% one turn, your first turn, buffed by 40% the following turn, and then your cards take 30% reduced damage in the following turn too. That feels like a damage debuff, but your cards are still doing the same damage they do naked. It just feels like a debuff because you were doing so much more before. And now another thing I really wanted to highlight right now is the absolute insane crushing power of that taunt card that I had that just died. Holy cow. It does so much damage. It is just completely bananas how much damage that does. And we have the damage reduction now, so we should go ahead and take this. This is against... Ooh, that's going to be bad. The damage reduction really helped there. It didn't save me. Let's see here. So he does 95. I need 125. It is 92. We're going to do this and hope. Yes. So the taunt card, the 20 some odd point taunt card that does that has just, oh no. So that is good and bad. It's bad because it's going to take a while to chew through that. It is good because that's just not threatening. Let me see if I have enough barrage. No, I didn't have enough barrage to take this guy out, but that's okay. I don't know if we can pull this out. This is a really bad matchup because Mozrog is just so tanky. But now Mozrog himself is on the board. Okay. Can we do it? Maybe. I'm going to go with probably not, though, because that was a lot of damage and my shields are already down. And this is a really high-level Mozrog. So I'm going to shoot him as hard as I can, but he's got me. Okay. Yeah. And I just wasn't... I think it was... And so the critical mistake that I made in that game. So I was up against a very high attack value wall of cards where I needed them all to die. What I should have done is noticed very early that I was going to deploy just my squishiest possible cards and just given the first turn a wash. Because what I did is I played my target acquired on the turn where I wasn't ready to use it and then wasted it. So I didn't actually take out a key piece as early as I could have, and that ended up with me losing too many cards too quickly. So that, I think, is the critical error I made there, which is the kind of thing you learn by playing the same deck multiple times. Now, wait, did we check what ladder position we're at now that we did 14,035? I bet we're at 94 still. Because that's another thing, too, is that the people who are very highly ranked in Terra who take up those 94, they're not like 10 trophies apart. They're like thousands of trophies. So it can take quite a while to actually climb any measurable distance. But yeah, so I really do have to ladder aggressively for a bit longer if I want to get that top 6%. Take a quick pause to talk about this deck. So you'll notice that it doesn't have Long Strike or the big flyer in it, in part because they're just so much more expensive and both of mine are just low enough level. If I get one more level on this, I would build around it, but I'm just that one level short to the point where the not too far back debuffs made this compare unfavorably with my other cards because of the cost. I have this deck in the wings to try next time I have it. I was talking up this card for the bulk of hit points that this thing has. It is such a good taunt card at high level because the little shield drones are very, very good, especially for the points, but all too often they don't have enough hit points to actually protect your other cards. This one can, and can do it for more than one turn, especially once I get him up here. Then he will actually be a really reliable piece. Now, mine is not high enough level to really help as much as I want, but still helps a lot. And of course, I have the low Storm Surge in there. But this one is a really good compromise of points, attack stats, and abilities. The one thing this is missing is it doesn't have as much barrage as I'd like. I have one barrage card and then a barrage drone. So I'm actually going to go ahead and edit this to see what I can do with barrage. And I think it's this guy, yeah. And so the points become very challenging. So this guy at 42 is really strong, but then you look at the points I've spent here, it'd be very difficult to move. I think we're going to go ahead and do it. We'll switch these two. And then I'll drop my other barrage drone and see what I can do for 4. And the reason I'm doing that is the barrage drone is good, but it doesn't have high enough damage, and it doesn't have enough hit points to stick around long enough. That gave me the hit points. Dropping the 4 points gives me enough to put in the other taunt drone, or let's see what else we have at 4. So I can actually drop this guy. He doesn't do very much, so we'll do this, and that gives me 9 points, which can be the endless guys, right? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. And it's a lot of hit points in that thing, and a lot of damage. And then that actually bumps me back up to 4. What can I do at 4? Ooh, we got another endless. We could do double endless. Now I will lose the target acquired, or I could do inspiring presence. Yeah, let's do that. Because that is actually, with the extra barrage, inspiring presence is actually more utility generally than target acquired. We'll try this. I really like this drone. This is one where I was like, I'm not gonna. This thing sucks. It's 3 points. It's inspiring presence for 3 points. I mean, yeah, okay. Plus it stacks with Shazzo's ability, so you are, instead of doing 40% bonus damage on those key turns, you are doing 80% bonus damage. So basically double. Yeah. So deployment matters and positioning matters a lot with Shazzo because the boy 3.7k Trazen. And this is where that kind of rotating positioning is going to be hugely important. And what really sucks about this is right out of the gate, he's got 8 bodyguards in there, so there's going to be a lot. And I don't want to play my taunt too early, and I don't want to play my highest cost card right out of the gate because it will be incredibly vulnerable, especially because this is the big downside to taking that over the more expensive one. This one has almost half the hit points of the other one. So I'm going to go ahead and play this guy. Oh, that's bad. And now this is where deploying first is a huge bummer, because I don't know where that's going to go. Is it going to go in the middle or is it going to stay there? Usually, odds are much higher of the card in the middle moving out rather than the wing going, okay. Now that is good and bad. Obvious reasons being, it is good because he's target acquired the wrong target. It is bad because he target acquired someone and now my stealable card is in a very vulnerable position. Oh, perfect. Love it. All right, now here's where we get become a real jerk. And again, though, I don't want to lose. Okay, who has the most stock damage? 73. He's got 90 something. Now, what I'm trying to doing the math on here is, do these have enough offensive power to kill this? With this ready, and with the barrage on both sides, it is possible that they do. So we're going to go ahead and gamble on this. Hold on to your butts. No, but wow, did we hit him hard. So this is one of those things where I have to kill that if I can. I don't know if I can, but if it is possible for me to do so, I have to. That has to die. Although I may have given this to this guy in the bargain. Because if he does melee, he pretty much has this. Unless he kills it. Nope, he didn't kill it. Crap. All right, well. This is where we do this. And this. Now, this is another thing about this deck and where it has more utility over the others is we looked at the build and we compared the really big barrage card to this guy, and this one has just so many more bodyguards that have meaningful ranged attack that it is dramatically more powerful. Not more powerful. It is more flexible. Just because I have more cards I can pull on that do meaningful damage. Whereas if I relied on that one big one, if something came in like a target acquired or a particularly nasty deck and actually killed my stuff too soon, that would be a problem. Oh, crap. And now he pulled my taunt. Okay. That's a problem. Now here we'll see if the Endless was a good enough add. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do it. A max level Cement had 1 more shield than I needed. If that guy was 1 level less, he would have, well, maybe. He only has 2 shields. Okay, wow. Never mind. Oh, yuck. Killed by my own cards. All right, and this is when I looked at that and was like, this is a bad thing. And so both of these, that is a huge problem. And then Cement is so good. So yeah, no chance. Once he stole my card, I was in real trouble. So that was where the positioning of Darkstrider is so powerful, and that would have been a better matchup for Darkstrider, maybe, because it lets you move your cards out of places of danger, whereas with Shazzo, you don't have that. So your cards have to punch through. So there is definitely something to be said for a just very, very, very chunky 1 card to punch through everything. Shazzo with the Fear Barrage super heavy at high level, this deck, or at least something like this, I'd probably swap this out for the other taunt and maybe shuffle points around. But this guy just smack in the middle of your board, keep it alive, is practically unstoppable. Except Glogothrox would just murder it. But yeah. Up here, plus your bonus attacks, like plus some Medicae and taunt, like this thing will just sort of stomp through the board. But I don't have that. I am going to go ahead and try this just to see if it's better than I think, because it has the double. It's still very strong, but the extra cards in my other decks have usually been more powerful. we may see a quick loss here, but I hope that's kind of helped. Badger, of course it's Badger. Now this is actually good. This is a good matchup to do this on because the bigger Barrage Flyer has so many more hit points. That it may actually make the difference. And Badruk is one of the rare matchups where you deploy second, which is actually a huge benefit because that means that I will know where stuff is before I play my power pieces. I think that's enough. It is enough. Sweet. I needed that. God, he does so much damage. I just absolutely love the sheer amount of damage that Shazo can put out. It's just crazy. Now he does 98. Let's see. And I only have to kill 2 more cards. They're probably not very impressive. And he's not going to do ranged because he's scared of me. I'm going to keep readying that up. It's not working because he keeps melee or ranged. Oh, there it is. Range debuffing. Do that. Yeah, that range damage just isn't as high as I'd like, but that hit points, the hit points are very impressive. How many shields he got? He's got 3 shields. I need you to die. Blat, blat, blat. And then I've got this guy here in the end game to hopefully survive. Oh god, they're all going to shoot him. Wow, that went poorly. Okay, that was my mistake. But maybe. It is still possible that I can pull this out. How much damage does this guy do? 82. Yeah, I can survive that for a bit. And this is one where Shazo's ability to finish out a game is incredibly important. So I should have this. If I ready and survive this turn on my 1 shield, got it. And that's the thing. Having those shields, having that meaningful ranged attack, that still would not have finished out most Warlords. And if he'd gone melee, I would have been hosed. A couple rounds of melee to clear those shields before doing that, dead. But the AI didn't do that, so it gave me that win. We got 45, so yay. All right, let's keep at it. So I will try that deck one more time because I did get lucky there, but I still think that there's something to it, and the extra hit points on that Barrage card are really good. I still think that the other deck I have is overall better, but I don't know. And we can actually take a look at this. This kind of splits the difference. I can tweak this a bit. And this thing has such high range. This is such an efficient ship for that cost. For those points, for that ranged attack is insane, but it is very, very squishy. So I can do something with similar stats for dramatically cheaper and see what else I can squeeze in here. But it may or may not be worth it. Because what I get in the end, and I could have Long Strike instead of the Barrage tank, but Barrage is so good. And this guy's just shy of where I want him in terms of that single target damage. If I get, I mean, I'm like 2 levels behind where I want him to be. Like there, no brainer. I would have him in here in a second, especially because of that Inspiring Presence. But right now, it's a little bit more iffy. I will say, though, one big benefit of this is that even his Precision Shot will benefit from Shazo's ability. So I wonder. So if I would save 10 points on that. Yeah, I don't know if it's worth it. But let's try Long Strike and then immediately regret it because it's 8. What can I do with 8 points? I feel like we've been here before. Ooh, yeah, okay. Do that. No, we don't want that because we already have that. Okay, we'll do this. And then what can I do with 3? I can do another taunt. Keep Long Strike alive. Because Long Strike already has Inspiring Presence, level 1. Yeah, it's a hilariously low-level Long Strike. He's still doing 107 damage, but for the points he takes that he doesn't have the utility to barrage, that still holds him back, especially for 60 points. But in the Shazo deck, 100 damage is a really nice way to start because you start with that massively increased damage. This is great because there are several Warlords out there that rely on incredible durability, and Shazo's just absolute punch of an Alpha Strike is very, very helpful in dealing with that. Okay. Nice. Yeah, this is just gave me the game by playing that, making that play. Now, if I'd had Barrage on Shazo, he would have also been able to finish off those two as well, but he wasn't. And now I immediately regret taking out my target acquired, because it means that guy's going to be hard to deal with. But we'll do that. And that damage reduction. And one thing I really love about playing Shazo is his ability, the cadence of it feels so right, where it's like initial hit, follow-up hit, and then when your cards start feeling the return fire, then you get that automatic damage buff. And then if you tank those turns, then you get to do it again. So it does feel like that cadence of attack buff, defense buff is exactly what you want, which is really helpful to closing out those games. He's got 64. Yeah, I can survive this if I ready. But if I ranged, he's got me. Oh, no, he had the ranged ready. Never mind. All right, Chazo, we got to finish out this game. Can we do it? Feel pretty confident, actually. Especially with that damage buff preserving my taunt card. And with this doing enough damage to punch right through the shields on that guy. Ooh, that's a little bit of a problem. It's all right, I got more. There, the extra taunt drone really saved my butt. But now I still have to go up against the Magus himself. That's a pretty low-level Magus, really level 8 now. Okay. Do I have a range debuff? I don't, so I'm about to lose him either way. I have 2 shields left. Can he kill me? I kind of have to do it to have any chance of doing this, so I will see how this works out, but I really needed that. Nice. I really needed to take the shot when I had the ready and then also had the range buff, and getting the barrage bonus damage over here probably decided that. So called it. Okay, and that's the kind of risky endgame play where Shazo excels, because you have the shields. Without the shields, and I just leveled him up to get the 3rd shield, and that was huge. I would not have done this with him if I didn't have that 3rd shield. I don't know what else I would have done, but not that. And that should be the win that puts my Tau back into my top 4 as well, although probably 4th, because that didn't catch me up to Chaos. Not yet. Okay, which is kind of good, because that's a very low trophy count, and I want to do higher than. Wow, this is such a little difference. I have 7. No, okay, so Servants is actually a fair bit higher than that. So we'll keep going a little bit. I'm going to try one more Tau, and then we'll see if Necrons or if Orcs come back into this, because I'd like to show that too. We'll see. So I'm going to keep an eye on this through week 4. We'll get to that. Those are closing notes. Now I'll go ahead and talk about it. So I'm going to keep at this into week 4. Excuse me. Which is better? The two are very similar, and it's pretty funny that the cards I have are basically the same positions too. We'll go ahead and Long Strike. Let's see it. I love Long Strike. I haven't taken him because I didn't think I could justify it. So this is good. I will keep an eye into this into week 4 and probably continue to lose leapfrogging a little bit for slow gains. I think my current trophy count is enough to get me into the top 6% by the end of the season. We're gonna have to see. Oh God, it's against Darkstrider again. Okay. We're just gonna have to see, and I will have to watch that, because I would really hate to not make it, to not play, so that I don't to avoid playing, to avoid losing trophies to the point where I end up not making it, because I'm really, really close. I've put in this much time and effort so far. I really want to finish this out. Man, that range debuff. Don't love that. Oh, look at that board wipe. Yeah, okay, and that's a piece of utility I kind of underestimated in Long Strike, is that Inspiring Presence does also give him a flat, very impressive ranged attack. And now here, note I am positioning to have Long Strike hit this guy as hard as I possibly can, which I should be able to kill it, because that's a lot of damage. Yeah, and that's massive. To take that out probably decides this game in my favor. To have this guy's hit points to be able to tank all of those moving shots is also absolutely huge. And we are not going to take that shot, because we're going to wait for that taunt to wear off. Yeah, comfortable win against a pretty nasty opponent. Bye. Yeah, okay. So I've really underestimated Longstrike because I forgot that he already has the stock Inspiring Presence, which stacks. So having any level of that at all is hugely powerful with what Shazo does already, and that makes his base attack dramatically higher. Also increases the base attack of your other cards too, which is really good. So I should have been running Longstrike all along. Live and learn. It's one of those things where I kind of understand the theory, but you don't really get it until you actually see it in practice. So, okay. Um, Doing pretty well. We should at least get one game of Orcs in to go ahead and show that. Ooh, Servants are back out. All right, Orcs. So again, the Orc Warlord I've been playing the most is still Snickrot. I hit a pretty nasty wall, but one of the things was just adjusting to the fact that this is where I am in the ladder, where I have to do what I did with Servants to actually climb the ladder at all. So I got a little bit discouraged at times and did tweak the deck a bit, and this is what I've been running. It does lean a little bit more on melee as a secondary attack type, but still really has that heavy ranged hit too, and then the double target acquired. The 6-point guy just didn't have the hit points or the damage to ever really make a difference, whereas this guy does. And this guy has a meaningful melee attack and also keeps all of my cards alive. So pretty good. It's been a lot more effective than what I did initially. Of course, this deck, the best possible Snickrot deck, is one that runs like a max level, the yellow knot. I forget if it's the Gorkanaut or the Morkanaut, but the yellow one with barrage and shields. That sucker will just wipe boards. Oh, a mirror. I hope he doesn't have one. Who is the greater Snickrot? Okay, and he's going first, so I have to be very cautious about this. And that is the worst possible pull, because I don't want to play any of these. All right. All right. Boop. Okay. Don't love it. Do that. We're going to do that. And then we're going to take a look at the numbers. So if I go, that's 120, 180, maybe enough, but this is definitely enough. I want that to die. That's so many points that, and that actually sets me up well too, because I'm pretty sure he can't kill this, which puts me in a great position to kill it myself. Even if he makes an utter mess of my, ooh, nice. We'll do this. And then because something scary is coming next, we're going to do this. Ouch. Caraboom. This is kind of a great deck because this is Snickrot is Harry, our Mad Emperor, game designer of this game's favorite warlord. And so it's pretty cool to see. Okay, so I don't need target acquired here because he's already got taunt. So this is actually a great spot for Snickrot to really shine and just nuke it. Ooh, that's bad. But oh god, that hurt. Wow, okay. So I need to kill that, but no, that nixed it. This guy hitting me for 180 damage, so this guy needed to die a lot earlier. Makari, definitely a underrated card. I think he's got me hands down on this. Even that, yeah, okay. Dang. Out snickrotted. I got out snicked. So I was behind him, but he was behind me. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, again, banging your head against stuff. So that is one of my two decks. Don't underestimate Makari. The Inspiring Presence is incredibly powerful, and that little guy takes a while to bring down, but bring him down. So I was pretty proud of being able to take out the power pieces, but that shield was unexpected. That is a very impressive deck, actually. I may consider running that one too, but we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and run one other Warlord just to show it before I switch back to Snickrot. This is one of the other two Warlords that I did that performed really well. And that guy does use this knot. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. So that is the perfect number. But I want this one. Yeah, this one is just dumb. So we're going to go ahead and do this. One thing that's important to note is that it's not, and this is the one that actually I laddered with very aggressively for a while, but I'm going to go ahead and try this one and see how it goes. With this guy's ability, your 9-point and less cards can also benefit from the attack buff. So the way this works is anytime one of your cards that's 10 points or less dies, every other card in your deck gets a plus 15% bonus to attack stats. And just like with Supreme Commander Gosar, this is going to be just like with Supreme Commander Gosar, some of your sub 9-point cards hit incredibly hard. This one being an example here, 7 points, 45 base. That adds up real quick. Unfortunately, he's one of the first cards you have to deploy. Do this. This is a good and bad matchup. Good because, of course, I want to lose these cards, and Badrock is going to chainsaw right through them. Bad because I'm going to lose them extremely quickly, and more quickly than I'm particularly comfortable with. So, and here's another one. So these guys here, the Burna Boy, these guys are really, really good for the ability because they get that built-in Inspiring Presence on pretty decent attack stats already. This is a great start because he has already played his max taunt cards. And so I have, what's our point here? 75%. So I believe we're at max already, which is awesome. So we'll do this. We'll do this. And we'll do this. Now the part I'm concerned about here is that if this guy dies, the guy that pops out is going to do taunt. So I didn't put the guy that does ranged attack over there because I don't want to trigger that taunt, which I'm about to, which is a bummer. But that took it out. Sweet. Oh god. Okay. That is max level. I think this is the play, and we'll see if this has enough hit points to survive. It is my turn, and I have enough to kill that. Gotta love that big game hunter. Okay. Now, this is going to be really interesting to see. It's going to depend a lot on his attack stats. 83 with that ready, plus just Badrock himself may just be able to, that's a very high-level Badrock who may just one-shot my Wartsnaga. He's got it. Okay. Nah. Darn. I think part of that was the drop, and that's the real downside to bringing a full deck, because you don't have control over what you play first. So you want to have all of your best possible options for which cards to play first. So you want fairly thin decks in that, so you have that positioning advantage, which is why with Wartsnaga, I usually run almost exclusively endless cards to go ahead and take advantage of his ability, so you have a thinner deck that can still get to max bonus, because max bonus is 5. So 5 ticks of that attack buff based on losing cards that are under 10 points, which is how I ended up on these two. So this one has the double endless and then has these two. Now I could just put a 10-point card in here instead of both of those, but I think we're going to stick with this one. This is the one that I laddered with really well, and this is kind of the variant that I did more recently. When I get that death blow, this is going to be a really terrific moment with this guy. And this guy's taunt is actually really effective. What can I do for 53? And I know this has gotten long. I know I promised in the beginning that it would be, but still, I hope if you're still with me that this has been fun and worthwhile. Just watching the gears turn and seeing my sort of thought processes work. Okay, so I've got 54, but I could go up to 55 for this guy, which is not good because level 3. If I had him up higher, I'd be pretty good, but I don't. This guy is excellent because of those shields. So he's got the attack buffs and a ton of hit points and the shields. So the problem is he's expensive enough that you don't end up with much in the deck. Had that taunt card in that last guy been anybody but the red Gobbo with Endless, that would have been great. Okay, hang on. Excuse me. And then let's drop this. What else can he be with? 59, huh? Ooh, hoo, 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 hoo. There it is. Okay, we're doing it. That's a good one. That's really good. I knew that number was significant for Orc somehow, but I wasn't clear how. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Hopefully I get a favorable matchup. Badrock is not a favorable matchup. Snickerot is not a favorable matchup. That's 3 Orc. Wait, it's Orc v Orc 2 games in a row. Yeah, I knew that wasn't going to happen again. Up against Tolmaron, a thin Tolmaron is kind of great and kind of terrible. Need this. Okay, all right. Let's do it. He's going to shoot me, which is great. And I'm going to get a little bit of benefit of shooting first as well. So that's going to give me a big buff. Yeah, nice. I got my sneaky boy. And here I want to be very cautious because I don't want to lose this guy too quickly. Because look at how much damage he's putting out now. Love it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. This has barrage. And so he's actually going to hit. We'll do that. So that's going to clear the shield on this guy anyway, but yeah, double range buff. Nice. And he's going to shoot me, of course, because the AI really wants to shoot me because he's running really heavy ranged attack. Oh, yuck. This could be a problem. So we got Inspiring Presence, the double buff. How much damage are we doing? A lot. We are doing a lot of damage. Sweet. Okay, so both of these have barrage on either side. The one on the right has enough to actually kill this thing, which is a crazy amount. Hopefully that's enough barrage to take out the guy in the middle combined with the 50. It may. If it did it, oh, thank goodness. Now, I probably could have pulled that out even if that hadn't been enough, but that it was really huge. This feels pretty good. But still, you could see right immediately there the downside of having that thinner deck is you don't want Wartsnagger on the table because he's always incredibly vulnerable. That 180 hit points. He actually does have decent enough stats where he can finish out a game, but he's glassy. So let's try that again until we get orcs into the ladder, and then I will probably call it a night. I've really, really enjoyed this ladder run. Really hope I get Skarbrand, but actually the process of doing this and recording it has been arguably more fun than getting Skarbrand will be. I'm saying that to 92, we've moved up a whole three ladder positions. The process of doing and recording this has actually been arguably more fun than having Skarbrand will be, which is one of the ways that I can cope with not actually making it. I must be so close. I must be right there. Because usually I end up in the top 20%, or top 10%, excuse me, but with like rank 200 or something. So being this high is still pretty cool. But I don't know how much higher I have to climb to get in that top 60%. And I don't know if I can stay there, even if I'm able to do it. So we'll see. This feels like a really strong Wartsnagger deck, though. Being a thin deck, having both very high hit point barrage cards, and of course Kerboom just for fun. Feels pretty good. Now, this is a horrible matchup because no matter what is on the board, your highest cost card on the board, no matter how low it is going to be the one that can be stolen. So that's really bad with endless cards too. Because right there. So that was actually really good. So he stole my taunt card, which is not good. But that meant that he didn't steal one of my sub 10 point cards and deny me the attack bonus that I'm kind of relying on to go ahead and actually make this deck work. So that is good. We will call it a win. Go over here. We don't have to be too eager to engage the Sun Eater. I do want, oh yeah, and that got rid of the steal. Sweet. Yeah, we'll still do that. Now, I still want to be extremely careful here because I don't want to lose this. If that gets stolen, I lose outright, hands down. I don't think I'm going to at this point, but you never know. Oh, yeah, okay. So doing the math here, we got 25 on this side, barrage damage over there, kill the guy in the middle, kill the guy on the right, and then the additional 187 to the left. Is it enough to kill that? I don't think it is, and it's particularly dangerous because that will also cost me, or that will bring Wartsnagger on the table really early, and I don't want to do that. Okay. Now that, however, may have cost me my chance to kill this, which is a concern. Shit. Okay. Oh no. Okay, so I do probably have the damage to kill both flanks, but it probably is not enough damage to kill the Sun Eater unless I'm wildly underestimating that, because that sucker has 500 hit points. Yeah, which basically decides the game. Oh, look, there's my. Ooh, that was a really bad matchup. Yeah, Trazen is extremely powerful and pops up a lot, and you have to be able to tank and or remove his incredibly powerful shots like that. A 500 hit point Sun Eater, you really have to hit that guy with Big Game Hunter and Target Acquired, or you're not taking it down. And if you don't take it down, you better have a really powerful melee deck to win and not have it steal enough of your stuff. Like that is a super powerful combo. So yeah, it's pretty much a Sun Eater plus all the Medicae you can squeeze in there is a super good Trazen deck, even if your Sun Eater is relatively low level. But if your Sun Eater is high level, game over. It's insane. All right, we'll try this one more time, and then we can go back to Snickrot. I actually did fairly well with Badruck for a while, but I don't trust it because my Badruck he's quite high level, but there are so many decks out there that can counter Badruck, especially Akaran. Akaran really messes up Badruck in a bad way. I am wondering about the build on this because I don't love how much this taunt guy is being played so early because I really want my taunt card late. I should have played one of my shooty cards in this one actually and put my like big truck over here. This hopefully will be a fairly easy matchup. There we go. And the reason why I should have done that is that way I could have saved my taunt for when Schwarzenegger is actually going to hit the board. Bloop. Bloop. Rawr. And it's cool to see these guys actually do not insignificant damage. I mean, it is not significant, but it's not nothing. Once they start taking the buffs from Schwarzenegger. Oh, nuts. Okay. And here's the problem with the thin deck again. Who does more damage? The Bloodthirster does a lot more damage. Crap. Yeah, and here's where I really would have loved having that taunt card a little bit earlier. Go all the way over. God, he didn't go all the way over. But even without, Skulltaker could have soloed me there. Okay, that did not work. Yeah, it's too thin. I really like that deck, but I needed to play one of my power cards earlier. I probably need more shields on my Gorkanaut and to play it sooner so that it is having a impact on the game but not dying quite early. One thing that I would love to see in Orcs is like a 9-point Medicae. There may already be one in there that I'm just forgetting about. But a Medicae under 10 points would be really, really valuable for multiple Warlords. Yeah. We're going to try that one more time, just in the interest of giving Schwarzenegger a chance, and that one win I had was awesome. But hopefully this has been helpful to kind of see some of the Warlords and decks. Oh, that's bad. Some of the Warlords and decks that you'll see at this level of play, how you can kind of grind your trophies up a little bit higher. I'm sure not everyone's going to do it, and certainly not everyone's going to do it every season. But if you're motivated to do it, if there's something you really want in a specific season, I really want to give you the tools to be able to. That's kind of the big motivation behind this. And hopefully it's done that. Hopefully this has helped kind of get through there. Yeah, okay, called it. Nice. Yeah, called it he wasn't going to use melee and that was going to come over here to engage with my Gorkanaut. All right, which knot is this? Gorkanaut, okay. Mad Mangler. Ooh, boy, those tokens are starting to do some damage. This is actually a pretty funny match because in a lot of ways, Schwarzenegger is a prototype of Supreme Commander Gosar. And those guys are dying too quickly. Like the tokens aren't in the deck long enough to actually benefit and have decent bonus attack stats. Yuck. Yuckity yuck. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Yeah. Oh, geez, that's a lot of damage. Okay. Got another death blow. All right, do we have enough? Ow. Yes, we have enough to kill that, but at what cost? And then we have, yeah. So Supreme Commander Gosar is really strong. At some point, if this gets desperate enough, I may actually try laddering with Gosar and Lilith, who are my top two performers who should ladder effectively. But if I lose a game with either one, that's going to hurt really, really hard because I have so many trophies with them, and they are my top two right now. So I'm not leapfrogging with anyone that is in my top 4, like I said before. Yeah, ouch. Not great with orcs. Hasn't been good. But I'll go ahead and touch on both of those decks just real quick to talk about it. And then I'll call this because this is getting quite long at this point, and I wanted it not to be that long. So edit anytime. Now, the reason I think Lilith is so incredibly powerful is she has the utter ludicrous punching power to punch through opposing decks really, really fast. That is a huge part of it. This deck exclusively leans on ranged, so leans on this guy and this guy just to do devastating alphas to hit stuff, kill stuff, and then come back to hand so they can do it again later. Both of them have precision shots, so they do a bunch of extra damage when they are replayed. So they're able to just chainsaw through opposing decks in no time whatsoever. Have the Medicae here that surprisingly actually can come back to hand multiple times, because in combination with this and the devastating melee or range damage we do, um, I am surprisingly often able to pick kills with the 40 something, 40 psychic damage on that guy to get multiple deploys and actually top off my card's hit points. These cards, these high cost taunt cards, have been absolutely transformative to this. So this one only has the 152 hit points. Actually, I think I don't have the points to do the Vizark. It'd be great to be able to put him in here because my Vizark is quite high level. Yeah, he's 23. So I'd drop both of these to put him in here instead. He's got a lot of hit points, but he doesn't have any ranged. I may try that, but I've really appreciated this has the option to shoot and also has just enough range damage that I can pop it back to my hand multiple times. And it clears shields, it clears Akaran extra lives. It's not nothing. And that one extra level is going to be very significant. And then once I get it up here, it'll be a great piece. And it is that much cheaper in theme with the attack type. It's pretty good. And then I do, of course, have the little target acquired to help me deal with big things like the Sun Eater. You think about that Trazen deck, this deck can actually kill those because I could target acquire the Sun Eater and nail it with both of these and then actually perform a ranged attack. And I could conceivably do 500 damage in a turn. So yeah, that is where Lilith really shines, where she's so strong. And then she's able to weather counterfire because the cards that hit the hardest come back to your hand. So you kill a bunch of stuff, and the return fire doesn't have the opportunity to remove your power cards because they've been bopped back to your hand. So that's super strong and really fun to play because you can actually control the board in very dramatic ways by moving your cards to different places, choosing where and when you hit, and it is just super good. There's a reason Lilith is banned in PvP. And then, well, let's see. And then my Gosar, Supreme Commander Gosar, there are several really, really powerful Tyranid warlords. This is a really good time for Tyranids. I bet if I ran my Swarm Lord, the ability of Tyranid warlords to finish out games, especially the Swarm Lord, is so strong that they're in a very strong spot right now. They're in a really good spot just because they can take those fights. Even this guy, you're not going against that many counters to the Turvagon, so the Turvagon may actually be good even with that free card. Yeah, Swarmlord probably being one of the stronger ones, but then Gosar is crazy powerful just because of his combination of traits and abilities. And again, this is a funny one because it's very heavily ranged themed. So basically every card in here has a ranged attack. I believe actually all of them do have a ranged attack. And there's a sneaky buff in here because Gosar's ability is twofold. Anytime you play a card, all of your other cards in your deck, in your hand and deck, get a flat attack stat bonus, including Gosar himself, which is bananas. You know what? We are going to gamble. I'm going to go ahead and play Gosar. I'm going to instantly regret this, but we're going to do it. This is such a powerful ranged attack deck that it hits incredibly hard, has the durability, and then your tokens recycle into your deck. So you get a lot of attacks that's in there. But one of the key things I'd like to highlight is that Tyranids have some really strong ranged cards that we don't think about. This should be a good match. Have some really strong range cards that we don't really think about at 10 points or less. This one being one here. So you want cards that are going to gain that plus 10% attack stat, and it's really going to matter. That is like tippy top of the list. Ouch. And I get to go first. Oh, God. Okay. So I want to be really careful with this. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to hit him. I'm going to lose a bunch of cards, but then I will be able to deploy my target acquired knowing where this is, because I definitely want to hit that. So Hughes does 73, he does 23, 54 is not going to be enough. Yeah, let's see. And I can do it, well, okay. He's hitting for 98. Okay, I apologize for taking my time here. Now this guy's big game hunter, so right now it kind of makes sense to play him, get that trigger, and then clear 2 shields. Yeah, okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to clear a shield off him, 2 shields off him between these two, and then hit this guy with that big game hunter hit, so he's easier to follow up on in a later turn. This guy is stupid powerful for the attack stats for the cost. Like, as he starts building up attack stats from the Gosar buffs, it's just crazy. Like 143. We'll do that. Come on, we got the connection thing. All right. So goal here, what I'm trying to do is this thing's going to drop, and the precision shot is going to be enough to get this guy down to, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, okay. I don't know if that was better, but that's better. Okay, I'm not sure what made me do that, but having this guy deploy not across this is really good. That's very important that this guy not be punching this one, because that big game hunter will make, oh, I knew it. I knew he was going to do it. The big game hunter will make short work of this and put me in a pretty rough spot. And there he did it. He did melee. You jerk. You utter jerk. All right, we're going to clear the shields, buddy. We're going to do it. Get those tokens down here. And you can see how much damage these late game tokens do. Like this guy, he was already hitting for what, 40 some odd damage, and the one that just died. Like this one here is now 47. Hitting for 90. Yeah, let's go ahead and make a difference here. We're gonna live dangerously. I'm gonna take Tor Garradon down to his extra life so that when I do deploy something else, yeah, I can just finish him off. Okay, sweet. You just gave that to me, buddy. That was real dumb. I don't know why you did that. What I mean is that now I can just kill these, and this lives. Where if he'd done any other attack type, he probably could have wiped the board, and Tor would have lived at least a turn to have a swing on Gosar himself. Man, if I get a disconnect here, that would be so sad. Okay, come on. Let me do it. Let me do it. Let me finish the game. I will say, I think connection things have been way smoother since the latest updates they made to kind of fix some long-standing issues. So, game is in a good spot. Oh god, why is he so high? That is so many hit points. Did I do that right? I probably didn't. Because I need to hit this guy to take down 4 shields before he picks me apart. Man, okay. I didn't do it. And one of the key problems that I had is I played my barrage guy too early. This was a bad matchup. I needed a little bit more precision shot, probably some cheaper precision shot. I did okay. No, I don't have enough here. Because the thing is, I can punch him through his shields, but he's Akaran, so it's not going to matter. If I had another melee card in the flank here and cleared either of these flanks, it could have been better. So I have just played my ace and lost it, and I lost 36 trophies. It hurts. And that may actually be enough. If that drops my tier and it's out of my top 4, that would be a bonus, but I don't think it does. Because that would mean I can play them again without risk of further loss. And that's the thing too. If you are leapfrogging, if there's a really short difference, ooh, ouch. If there's a really small difference between your decks here, let me take another look at this. Come on, the connection's been so good this whole time, and now it's just mad at me. So in looking at this, so the difference between Chaos and Servants is 3 trophies. So even if I lose a game with Chaos, I'll only lose a maximum of 3 trophies because my Servants are there to catch it. They will bump up to catch it. Um, yeah. Let's take a look at some other alternative options for this. This is another deck that I've run that I really like with Gosar, because this card also benefits massively from the trait. And then we're going to tweak this. I don't know why this guy's in here, because this is not the best move, not the best psyker. Let's see here. So we're going to look at some of the cheapest cards I can put in here. I don't love this one because it's not ranged, and this is largely a ranged attack deck, but put that guy in there. Let's see, so I have 54 points. I want to put in more psychic stuff. This guy's amazing because you hold it and you just let this ramp up like crazy and then have this just utterly devastating death blow in there that you then follow up with whatever else you've got. So we'll throw him in there. And I talked about Barrage being incredibly powerful, so we'll throw this guy in here too. And then we still are sitting on 30 points. And I want another powerful Psyker in here. Ooh, or this guy. Oh, Death Leaper. Excuse me, I am so sorry. Let's see. Yeah, I've got those in there. It's pretty crazy what you can do with the points in this because you're leaning so much on your token cards. Let me go with one of the cheaper Psychers and then fill up with the other, a 14-point card. So the cards I've taken are not expensive enough. Let's go with Barrage. So I'm going to drop. Let's see, ooh. It's only level 7, which is a bit of a bummer. 148 versus 143. It actually has more hit points. We'll go ahead and do this guy. Perfect. Okay, so the reason I did that is so that my final card could be less than 10 points. Which of course is silly, but you know. Let's see, cost 10 or less. Let's look specifically at those options and we'll remove the trait. Hopefully this deck building is helpful too. This again is not the level of experimenting I should be doing right now. Do the other death blow. And then actually we can look at Churda. So we have 10 points we could spend. I could take a 10-point card, which gives me this guy. Okay, so we do have a lot of ranged. Churda's got Endless, which is really powerful because if your card deploys twice, yeah, we'll throw another Endless in there actually. The card then buffs all of your other cards by 10% twice. Apply. So that's the only one. Okay, so that's why he's in there. Yeah, all right, we'll put him in there. It's not the craziest idea. All right, and we're going to deploy this. Let's see it. I have a high enough level to have shields on my Neurothrope. It's going to hit incredibly hard in Psychic and have Psionic Blast, so it'll cover a field, but watch me get... what's his face? Call. Nope, Mozrog. Ooh, that's a good matchup, actually. Maybe. Because he's going to build up so many hit points before I can really do any meaningful damage, that's a little bit problematic. So we'll start here. Nice. Okay, we'll start here, because that is a totally expendable card. Doesn't even follow my primary attack type. And then we'll go ahead and go... I don't want to play that too early. We're going to go ahead and do that. Ooh, ouch. One of the things about this is she's a good one to play early because a lot of her offensive output comes from her poison. So it doesn't matter as much if she doesn't actually get too much of the attack buffs because she still has a long-term damage upside anyway. And this is great. This will let me clear through the red Gobbo very quickly. The double poison, so she's now taking down both copies, which lets me actually do meaningful damage to the rest of his deck. And I don't want to play that yet. Don't really want to play that yet. So we'll play this. Play that. $102. Wow. Look at this token. God. And now I am concerned at this point that my deck is too thin to finish out this game, but we'll have to see. All right, we're doing 151, 105. Love it. All right. Do that there. Ooh, yeah, we'll do that there. Oh, Medicaid, of course you did. All right, and then we need to hit this stuff really, really hard, really fast. So yeah, we're gonna do that. And do that. Now that was kind of an odd call because that meant that my thingy bobby here is the actual last card I played, so it will have the highest actual offensive output. But that is why we did it. Okay, now we have another one, so we're going to go ahead and do this. No, we want to do that. I want to kill that. Ah, Gosar's infantry, isn't it? I don't know if we did it. It is infantry, crap. But you did ranged, okay. Ooh, and I do forget that Gosar is also a psyker, so this may work out. Just because of the sheer, utter, insane damage output of Gosar. But so that confirms that it won't die, so we can go ahead and psychic. Yeah, so God, what an endgame. Very close against another warlord that would have been more challenging, but another warlord wouldn't have had 400 hit point cards across from me. So let's try that again. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Gosar feels really, really thick when you're playing against it, and then suddenly you get to the end game and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Gosar himself is very good at finishing out games, but at low level, especially my level 3, he's very glassy. So that was not the worst risk. No, that was a terrible risk. I could have lost twice, but I did actually end up at a higher trophy count than I started at, which is awesome. So orcs have to make it up. We're sitting here, so I did end up a little higher than I started. So we're in position 92. I'm going to keep leapfrogging. We're coming, Skarbrand. I'm going to get you. We'll see how it goes. So I will check in again next week and see if I won or not. It's probably going to be part of my season update. But yeah, hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully this is fun. I'm really enjoying this. So cheers. See how it goes.